All right. Are we ready? I've got my stuff there. I've got this there. Do I need to pre-pod? I already pre-podcast peed. I think I'm ready.
I was not born ready, but I became that way.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast Movie Show. That is the movie review podcast that explores itself, explores ourselves, and explores the self in general. My name is Ty. I am one of your co-hosts.
I am your other co-host and the most lethal femme fatale, Distance.
That is true. You know, I really questioned the casting job for Yelena in this. I thought you were going out for that role, and I know you made it to the second callbacks, but
I was sitting there. I watched it with a group of people, and numerous times during the film, everybody looked at me. I was like, "Why? Why not you?" And yeah.
I ask myself that all the time. Yeah, I think Marvel really missed the boat on that one. You should have been in this.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight, if you could not tell, tonight is the Metacast Movie Show about Black Widow. Black Widow is a 2021 superhero film, of course, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's directed by Kate Shortland and screenplay by Eric Pearson, of course, based on characters by Marvel Comics.
It stars Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and Rachel Weisz.
Budget for this movie was about $200 million, and as of right now, box office take of $166.3 million, plus about over $60 million from the Disney Plus release.
The tomato meter rating is 80% with an audience score of 92%.
That's the best scores we've seen in a few weeks. That's actually that's doing pretty well.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I know, right? We've seen a lot of mediocre scores the past few weeks, definitely. So this is the first film in Marvel Studios Phase 5, if they're going to keep with the phase thing. I don't know if they're getting rid of that. But it takes place directly after the events of 2016's Captain America: Civil War. Follows Black Widow Black Widow follows Black Widow, the title character, as and explores not only the consequences of her breaking the Sokovia Accords, but also sheds some light on the origins of this character in this universe. So my initial thoughts for this, I really didn't know what to expect going in. I've liked a lot of the Marvel Studios movies quite a bit, but there's also been a few that were kind of misses for me. I wanted to like this, of course, but I also didn't expect that I would that much. I thought it was going to be just kind of like one of the meh movies that didn't really have a lot going on. And honestly, I'm happy to say that I was pleasantly surprised. I actually really did enjoy this a lot. I thought that the banter between Johansson and Pugh was great. I thought they were hilarious together. I thought there were a lot of good laughs in this. It's, in my opinion, it's no Infinity War or Endgame. It's not on that quality where those are kind of super serious and more serial films to me. But that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with this. I thought it was great. I thought it was a lot of fun. Yeah, even though I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did, I really did, and it honestly reignited some of my interest to see some more Marvel movies. I talked about it before, I was considering that I may kind of be out after Phase 4, but this completely changed my mind. This is it makes me more excited to see what's coming next. What about you? How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, I had certain expectations about the movie that usually when I have expectations about a film, it kind of messes it up a little bit, or at least messes up my perception of the movie. And I think that what I expected was just some action-packed film with like witty banter and the occasional well-timed joke that hits at just the right moment in just the right way. But I think what happened is I adjusted my expectations in the midst of the movie. And I think that what I've realized about these movies where we give a solo to a character that didn't have one in the Avengers series, I think these are character development films. I think that the point is we're trying to learn about the characters that we didn't get to, and this adds some more depth to them. So while I don't feel like the action was great, but I don't think the action was on par with the other Avengers movies. But that's because I don't think it's supposed to be, and I don't think it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
The action scenes were awesome. The choreography was great. The fight scenes were this exact kind of insanity that we're used to expecting from Marvel films, well choreographed, great stunt people. Explosions are great, and they happen in all the right places, and some of the explosions are funny. So yeah, it's cool. It has some of the charm of the Marvel films that we're used to in the MCU, the ones, pre-Endgame. But it's also got this sort of agenda to show you a little more about who Natasha actually is. So for me, I felt it was really rewarding to watch. There were a couple parts in the film, as being a fan of the original series, I felt a little misty. So I think as a Marvel fan, you might not love the movie, but if you like movies, then there's something to be had here. So if you're expecting some kind of action-packed event where like it's just going to be, an extended version of the MCU films Endgame and before, that's not what you're getting. But if you're interested and you want to know about the characters, and Black Widow is a character you want to know more about, to add some depth and complexity, great film. And I got to say yes for this one. Whether or not you're a Marvel fan, I think you can get something out of it.
Yeah, and I think unlike a lot of the other Marvel movies, it's kind of cool that you don't really need a lot of preliminary knowledge going into this. So many of their 23 movie saga, it's like, well, shit, if someone wants to pick up at this movie, they need to know this, and this. But this one, I like how you could kind of jump in, watch this as a standalone, and like, you're not really going to be missing much. There are the references there for the people that do know the backstories and everything, but I don't think you're going to miss out on a lot if you don't. And of course, it is interesting that it has a little bit of that middle movie problem where, because it is a prequel to some stuff that has already happened, you kind of like, spoilers for other Marvel movies, but that, Black Widow is dead in the current time, but how she died. So, she's going to survive this movie. So there's never a point during this movie where I feared for that main character's life, but it's like that didn't take away from my enjoyment at all, which sometimes in other movies like that, it really does. There's supposed to be a moment of tension, and it's like, oh, well, I know the character's going to get out of this because I know later they're going to be alive. But yeah, in this, I didn't have that feeling at all, which I thought was really cool. Did you, well, yeah, let's go ahead. All right, before going any further, I guess I was going to say something that's not technically a spoiler, but I think I have to mention a spoiler to get there. So let's go ahead and bring out my other favorite superhero, Spoiler Terry right here. And he can ruin the rest of this movie. So yeah, spoiler alerts from this point forward. We will be going into Spoiler Terry. Deep into Spoiler Terry. So did you stay for the post-credit scene? That was one of the things I was going to ask about.
I did. It was actually a funny moment because I was watching it with my nephew, my girlfriend, and my brother-in-law, and they were like, we gotta go to the end of the credits. We gotta go to the end. I was like, I mean, why would they do that still? Do they really have anything to hype anymore? And we hit fast forward until close to the end and got to the point where, oh, okay, there is one. So yeah, I got to it.
Which is apparent. Yeah. Well, apparently for the show, there's going to be. I've really liked the Marvel Studios shows so far. I thought WandaVision was great. I thought Falcon Winter Soldier was great. And I'm really loving Loki. Episode 6 just came out today. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it after the podcast. But I've really enjoyed all of that I've seen so far. And apparently there's going to be a show Hawkeye, and Florence Pugh is going to reprise her role as Yelena hunting down Hawkeye in that show. So she's going to kind of be like, a villain type character for Hawkeye as the protagonist. I thought that's going to be kind of interesting.
That will be interesting. Yes. I mean, I think that it's a weird thing because it's like no one knows exactly how Natasha died because Natasha kind of didn't really, but she just doesn't exist because the timeline's not the same as it was going to be, and she died outside of the.
Yeah. She did die though, because she didn't get snapped or anything. So she's like, even though which I don't know how much you've seen of. Have you seen a lot of Loki?
I haven't watched a single episode yet. Okay. I signed up for Disney Plus again just to watch this film, and I'm going to start Loki. Probably I'm going to finish WandaVision and start Loki.
Okay. Well, there's no spoilers for Loki, but one of the main things it's about is like this there's this entity, like this group called the TVA, and they protect what is called the sacred timeline. And when things start to venture off that timeline, it's their responsibility to like stop that from happening and push things towards the like. So it's kind of cool that it's like it kind of ties into what you were saying, where it's like, so in the sacred timeline of this, what Marvel calls Earth 19999. Natasha is definitely dead. So it isn't like a gray area thing, but it is like you're saying, no one back on Earth knows the situation of how she died and how it was literally Clint and her trying to be the one that died. It's not that Clint killed her, but unfortunately, like, I guess that story somehow made it through what's her name, Valentina, and to Yelena. But yeah, I thought that's gonna be an interesting interaction, and I'm excited for that because I mean, like I said earlier, I loved Florence Pugh as Yelena in this. I thought she did a great job in that role. It would be cool to see her again.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought she did a great job with the accent too.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hard accent to do, I think, because I think when you do accents that sound Russian-ish or Ukrainian, Croatian, just that kind of region, the sort of Slavic kind of accent. A lot of actors, American actors, really overdo it.
Yes.
To the point where it becomes super cheesy.
For me, it's like basically Sacha Baron Cohen kind of ruined it, because now if I try to do a Russian accent, it slides into Borat every single time. Like there's enough of a similarity there that eventually it's like I start trying to be serious about vodka and eventually it's my wife, and like it's not good.
There's always a place it gets to where the accent is ruined. You slip into some weird thing. On the subject of accents, though, I thought Ray Winstone, I think is how you say his name, he struggled very badly with that accent. I'm pretty sure he's a Cockney.
Who is that?
Wasn't he's the one that played Dreykov?
Oh, okay. I didn't recognize that actor's name. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I agree. His accent was not the best. He did the way he talked with his inflection was at least menacing enough that it filled that villain type role. But yeah, no, I agree that compared to Florence Pugh and David Harbour, that I think did pretty well with their accents. Yeah, he did seem like he was just kind of outclassed. Yeah.
And his regional accent is really, really heavy. So for how his speaking voice typically sounds, I think he did a great job. But compared to some of the other actors, I don't think he did an amazing job of it. I think that the dude. Let me look at
David Harbour real
quick. Yes, yeah. David Harbour. Yeah. The accent he did as Alexei, I think, was necessarily a little on the cheesy side.
Yeah,
but I think that's because the character was intended to be that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I do want to talk about that character later,
sure,
or at some point, because that was one of the major complaints that I had, was the way that they catered to our expectations too much, I think in a bad way, with the way that they did Red Guardian, because we expect some kind of comic relief from the franchise because we've gotten that. Yep. And with Widow, there isn't really a lot there for comic relief.
Yeah. Well, luckily, like I said earlier, her and Yelena had good banter off of each other, where there was some comic relief between them joking with each other. But no, you're right though. They are like kind of more serious characters that don't really have a lot of comedy. Yeah.
And I just wish they would have made Alexei a little more serious.
Yeah.
Not because, and also, did you notice the reference when what Yelena called him?
Yes, when she got his name mixed up with the Crimson Dynamo, who was actually that's a character that's been multiple different people in the Marvel universe, but that was Anton Vanko at one time, who we saw in Iron Man 2. So yeah, I thought that was a funny callback for comic fans. Yeah.
And one of the first Iron Man comics that I bought when I was a kid, I haven't purchased a comic since I was maybe 12 or 13. Mm-hmm. One of the first ones I purchased that featured one of the first Iron Man comics I purchased featured Crimson Dynamo.
Oh, that's cool.
And the way I don't remember what iteration that was of him, but that version was badass. Like, he was fucking scary as shit. And it's funny because there's something about Red that there's a lot of characters from Marvel featuring something about red in their name that have not been in any of the series. Yep. Crimson Dynamo being one of them, you know, Crimson Red Blood, you know, whatever. But Omega Red.
Yeah, I was about to say that would have been funny if she would have called him Omega Red. Yeah.
That would have been much funnier. But I wish Omega Red would be in a movie. I was really, really hoping that they would take the Wolverine franchise there. Yeah. But I think Hugh Jackman is done, and now he's going to sing and dance like he's always wanted to do.
But I mean, but now that we are seeing Marvel literally buying everything back, like, did you see the short that came out recently where it actually confirms Deadpool in the MCU now? It's him and I forget the Clonk from Thor. It's him and Thor sitting there like reacting to YouTube videos together. It's really funny, but it's like he now officially exists in the MCU. The next Deadpool movie will be a Marvel Studios movie in the MCU. So they're slowly expanding to that X-Men side of the universe, which I don't know how they would introduce X-Men because of the whole story of the X-Men means they should have been around for a long time, and it involves, you know, just literally a mutation in human DNA. So I'm interested to see how they would do it, but it would be cool if they do actually bring that whole side of the Marvel universe into their existing cinematic universe.
I agree. That'd be awesome. I knew that Deadpool was moving to MCU, but I didn't know about that teaser. I will be watching that immediately after we get done filming, because I don't know. I mean, you know, and I think I'm the guy that's always talking about casting on here, and obviously nobody else could have played Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds is the only choice.
Yep.
Anything else would have been a miserable failure.
Not only was
any
the
other version of Deadpool would be a failure.
Yes.
Was a failure, in fact.
Not only was the casting great, but like I love the fact that he cares about the character, likes the character, does the research, reads the books, knows how to emulate the character that people expect from the pages they've read. Like that's the coolest thing about, like, so many of other people that, like, I mean, not complaining, but some of the people that I in Marvel movies, I feel like they haven't done a lot of that research and they just kind of play what they want their version of the character to be. And sometimes it's fine, but other times it's like, well, you know, you've got decades of source material there you could have gone to. You know, it's like that is like one role where you can really do your research and learn that character.
Yeah, like the fact that Reynolds does that, I like that there's sort of this stigma, like, oh, well, you know, they're playing superheroes, it's not real acting. But you can have some method to it if you want to.
Oh yeah.
And you can research if you want to. I don't know that. I mean, obviously not. But I obviously I wouldn't say that that Disney has had any demand on them to do kind of method with it. But I think it's cool because, I mean, Deadpool before existed outside of these. So I think it's cool that they that without any, or at least what doesn't seem like any push from the production team or the production company, that Ryan Reynolds decided to go out there and do that. The one concern that I have, and I feel like even though we're not talking about the same movie, I feel like people that want to talk about Black Widow or hear about Black Widow are going to be people that are interested in the stuff we're talking about anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm just really, really terrified that Disney's going to fuck up Deadpool like they did Star Wars. Like, is there going to be a Jar Jar Binks in the new Deadpool movie?
I have enough faith in the Marvel Studios division, and I think Disney has enough faith in Marvel Studios that they let them handle their stuff. You know, like, and I've even heard, I forget if it was Feige or it's one of the other execs in Marvel Studios that said that, like, we are going to keep Deadpool. He will be R-rated still. Like, they're not going to try to make it a PG-13 version to fit the rest of their universe and stuff. So, like, I'm cautiously optimistic. Like, I don't think they're going to have any sort of top-down drive to change it and turn it into something different. They saw how amazingly successful the first two Deadpool movies were, that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't feel like they're gonna try to change. But.
Yeah, it would be stupid if they did. I mean, it would be really, really, really unintelligent.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like I don't know as much behind the scenes about the Marvel Studios. I know that Disney in the past has been very iron-fisted about the way that they've done things.
Yeah.
But it seems like Marvel Studios would be, if you're not going to be iron-fisted with someone and you're going to allow some liberty for some group, that Marvel Studios would be the one. I mean, because I think that any wrong calls I think they've made are more pet peeves of mine, or like little things that I've found a little irritating, but I've never looked at anything that Marvel Studios has done and thought, wow, this is a Herculean screw up.
Yeah, they're never so far off base that it's like, what are you doing? And I think, like I'm saying, I think Disney recognizes that too. There's so much of a cash cow for Disney that they know that it's like, no, they've got it handled.
What was the Thor movie that everyone forgets to mention?
The second one, Dark World.
Yeah. Except for that. I mean, that wasn't a complete screw up. But it was weird because I like the Marvel films. I'm not like a Marvel head, I wouldn't say, but like a couple of years back, before we even started doing the movie podcast, I decided to watch all of the movies in release order. And that Thor movie came up and I was like, I don't even remember this.
Yeah, I forgot this existed. Yeah.
But the thing is I never saw it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you just totally overlooked it.
Yeah, and I was like, have I seen this before? And I was like,
yeah, and it's
no,
not,
I haven't.
It's, in my opinion, it's probably the weakest Marvel Studios movie. Yeah, I'm not a fan.
And it's like saying it's the worst Led Zeppelin song.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I agree.
It was a decent film. It wasn't on par with what we would have expected at the time, and also what we've come to expect from that production team and that production studio. But it's like, yeah, it's like the dumbest person that graduated MIT.
Exactly. Yeah,
I could do this all day.
Yeah, I can compare it to so many other cheesy movies, and it's like, oh yeah, hold on, this is way better. It's just when you watch it next to Civil War and some of the other Marvel movies, it's like, oh, hold on, this is a definite drop in quality. But yeah.
And maybe this is a weird thing because I am I guess what you would call like an action enthusiast. And like not the genre, but I'm an enthusiast about the way that action is done, like choreography and things like that. Didn't you know what? Is there a name for the character? Because I'm not as knowledgeable as you are on this stuff. The character that Dreykov's daughter was?
Oh yeah, Taskmaster.
Yeah, that's an interesting name.
Which they called it the Taskmaster Protocol. Even I don't remember if they ever referred to the character as Taskmaster, but I like how they do that in the Marvel movies. There were a lot of times like they never called him War Machine, but it like even said like, oh, so you want to be the War Machine now? Like there's some cool like throwbacks to the names, but yeah.
I love that line. I think he said, "You think you got what it takes to be a war machine?"
Yes, yeah, that's it.
And because that scene was so comical. Like, we should put the big gun up top. Like, where are you going?
Yeah. I'm the big gun, right?
This shit?
Yeah.
What do you call this shit over here? The cannons and that thing. It's like, it's called being a badass. But yeah, and I love that they never say War Machine, but War Machine's my favorite Marvel character because War Machine is like a super sidekick. He's not really. He's almost like a second fiddle, but is perfectly capable of just being on his own, and he is. I mean, there was a War Machine comic standalone. Yep. Robin can only be cool by himself if he becomes Nightwing. So but War Machine himself, plus his name's fucking War Machine, for God's sake. How badass is that? But yeah, like so Taskmaster, when I was watching it, also being unfamiliar, is it just me? Because I'll tell you what happened. When we watched the film, the first scene with Taskmaster after the vehicle gets blown up and Taskmaster attacks Widow, the way that character was moving, I was like, is that Bucky? I wonder if they cast the same stunt person.
Well, if you notice, they even mentioned it in the movie, like the way Taskmaster is designed, it's able to mimic a lot of fighting styles. It did a lot of things. It even did the way Cap picked up his shield one time where it steps on it. And like, so I actually think they may have just used mocap from a lot of different fights. Like the scene where, actually, I'm sorry, that was a different character, but they reused the knife drop thing where she like drops the knife and then grabs it and stabs her. I for some reason in my mind for a second I thought that was Taskmaster that did that. It might have been a reference to Bucky, but no, that was actually Yelena. But no, I do think that was built into the character, that it was supposed to have a lot of the movements of a lot of the Avengers that they've been studying for years at this point, I guess. Yeah.
And we had a moment where I had to rethink my relationship, because when I said, "Is that Bucky?" My girlfriend who was sitting right next to me said, "Who?"
Oh God.
I was like, and I was like, if she doesn't know the next part, this might be the end. I was like, Winter Soldier? She's like, "Oh yeah, the guy with the metal arm." Like, yeah.
There you go. Got
Captain America's best friend from way back.
Same.
Like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Like, I thought we were gonna have to end things. Um, and it was weird because okay, so that makes sense. I didn't even think about that. That was how the sort of the setup was for that. The AI, I guess, for lack of a better term, that the Taskmaster used. Okay, cool. Because that shit, like the whole bridge fight scene, that looked like straight up Winter Soldier. Everything that was done was Winter Soldier, with the exception of the shield.
And the exception of like he actually used the same move on Black Widow that she uses a lot, where she jumps and grabs with her legs and flips someone. I actually just called Taskmaster he twice in that. I think they in which they even call Taskmaster he at one point when they're being chased by him or whatever, because like I guess that the big reveal, of course, spoilers later, is it's a girl Taskmaster. Oh my god! Like, but
dun dun dun.
Which I thought that reveal was kind of cheesy. It's like I don't know. It's like, oh, his daughter's still alive that you thought you killed, and it's been the one chasing you the whole time. I don't know. Like that didn't do a lot for me when I thought it was supposed to be like kind of a big moment.
I had a lot of thoughts about what was going to happen, and I feel like I'm a shitty movie commentator because I didn't exercise as much scrutiny. But now that I think about it, you're right. It was really lame.
Yeah.
It was like it was predictable.
It was, yeah. I had a note like halfway through the movie that was like, you know what? I bet this Taskmaster's a female. And then like I didn't guess that it was going to be his daughter or anything. But even though I didn't guess that, at that reveal, no part of me was like, oh my god, his daughter's still alive. And was just like, oh, okay, like, sure.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, yeah. All right. And the person that cast Olga Kurilenko, I think is how you say her name. The little bit of screen time she had, I think, captured the vibe of what the character was supposed to be really well. That there's Arnold, look, buddy, I love you, but if you want to know how to really act like a robot, you should do a study on how Olga played Taskmaster, bud.
True.
If you ever have to do Terminator again, I mean, look, you've gotten better. You've gotten better, Arnie.
Don't say that.
Do what?
I don't want him to be back as Terminator again. I'm so done with that.
Please don't do anything like Aftermath again. But the fact that, essentially, from what I understand of what he describes, is that he turns Antonia, I guess his daughter, or Antonia, I forget how to pronounce it, into a machine. Like it sounds like he has like a microprocessor that he put in her head. So for all intents and purposes, she is more or less a robot.
Well, she was under the whatever the chemical was that they also had the antidote for, because like, again, at the end, spoilers, but she was able to break her out of that. So it's not just like she was rebuilt in some way with, synthetic parts, I guess, because of how much damage was done to her physically. But it was from what I understand, the mind control was mainly that what Melina was working on. Yeah. Dude, one thing from the very early notes here, I have definitely found my favorite new cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit. That intro was so good. Yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at everybody in the room, and there was only one person that could feel me on it, the 40-something-year-old in the room. And I was like, God, does this mean we're both old?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Nirvana's technically classic rock at this point, actually.
I think they are. Yeah. I mean, REM are classic rock, too. So, yeah. Hey, once Limp Bizkit is classic rock, then it's over. We will never, no one will ever look at us and call us kids again.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, I they start the movie off with that, and the way that it's done really makes the song. What I think that the best covers are the ones where you have to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh wait, this is because someone makes it their own so well. Well, do you remember did you write down the name of the artist? Well, I saw it in the credits, but I cannot remember who actually did it.
Malia J is what I'm seeing here. And
okay,
I'm a fan of those covers that really help me see the lyrics in a different way. Like, did you ever hear, what was his name? It was Obadiah something. He did a cover of Hey Ya. And it's like, it
Yeah.
makes the lyrics, like, all of a sudden you realize how fucking sad they are. And it's like, holy shit, the poppy version of this song, like, went right over my head.
The song was this the whole time. And not the, yeah. Why'd you even mention the poppy version?
Well, just because it's like, that's, I mean, the original Outcast, like that, it's such a poppy feeling that it's like, you can listen to those lyrics and have no feeling of their emotional impact.
I am so okay.
I didn't mean the poppy.
I thought you meant Poppy the artist.
No, I meant just the one that feels really poppy. Like Outcast's original version is so upbeat that those lyrics do not at all strike like the emotional resonation with me that they should. Yeah.
You know,
now I really want to hear Poppy do a version.
We need to write a letter to her and tell her to do it, because I thought because I'm not like I've heard her music and I like it, but I'm not like a huge fan of hers like you. That sounded derogatory. Like, I'm not like you, okay?
Dude, it's okay.
Fan of Poppy. I didn't mean it like that. But
I mean, I'm in the cult. I'm in the Poppy cult.
Yeah. You're part of it.
She did have a cult online for a while. The website got shut down, but there was like a Church of Poppy website that you could like join this like cult. It was a joke cult, but it really was like, yeah, it was kind of funny.
Okay. I have a ridiculous hypothetical for you.
I'm into it.
This is something I've done a couple times that I really like to do.
Okay.
What if, just imagine this, because like, once again, casting is one of the things that's really important to me. What if instead of Florence Pugh, they cast Aubrey Plaza as Yelena?
Too deadpan.
What? You know, I'm sorry, Aubrey Plaza. I like that character you always play.
Yeah.
I was about to say then maybe she could show her range, and I'm skeptical that she has any.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love Aubrey Plaza. I think I've seen everything she's been in, but yeah, I don't know if she actually has range at this point, which is fine. She plays what she plays incredibly well. But I also like, I would be really interested to see. Excuse me, God, I'm skipping syllables nowadays. Like, interested just became interested to see. But no, I don't think
that's how we got Spoiler Terry.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I'm just slowly having a stroke. Yo, what's up, Chelsea? So I am like, I don't think I've ever seen Aubrey Plaza in any physically demanding role. That would be actually cool to see her play like in more of an action type role where she would have to do a lot of like physically demanding things. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something that she's capable of doing. We have not seen it on film. I can't think of anything either. And I'm not like a huge fan, but the stuff I've seen her in, I'm really into. So okay, there's a couple things that I learned from this movie that I was unaware of previously regarding Marvel stuff.
Okay.
Were you already familiar with the Winter Guard group?
I don't believe so. No. What is the Winter Guard?
So there is a group called Winter Guard from Marvel. They're like Russia's answer to the Avengers.
Okay.
So Darkstar, Crimson Dynamo, and Red Guardian are members of the group.
Oh, cool.
And
okay.
I think there's a couple others. There's a weird character. Let me see if I can find this thing I saw again. Yeah, there's a Vanguard, who is essentially Russian Captain America.
Yep.
There is Red Widow.
Yep.
And there's Ursa Major.
The big bear dude. Yep. Okay.
And there's Perun, I guess. Slavic storm god, so he's not Norse.
Interesting. Okay.
Vostok. He's a Soviet era synthesoid.
Oh, but so he's like their vision. This is
in a universe.
Okay.
Yeah, this is in a universe called Earth 616.
Well, that's the main comic book universe. Like Earth 616 is the main timeline in comics. Earth 19999 is the main timeline in movies and Marvel Studios. Yeah.
And then it's funny that they did this, like the Russian Avengers. They also did like the Canadian X-Men, Alpha Flight.
Yep, I remember that. Yes.
So, but there's several different, like I guess iterations of this group, and I was previously completely unfamiliar with this, and I don't remember mentions of any of the stuff that I read as a kid. Any of the characters that were part of this group were kind of by themselves, and I wonder. I don't look at the timeline for the creation of these characters, but I wonder how much the Cold War had to do with this.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of the Marvels. A lot of it, you know, is reference to like different stuff in the real world and kind of like different analogies to things going on in the real world too. Like, I mean, I'm sure you know, but like even like the origins of the X-Men is really like a commentary on civil rights.
Yeah,
It's like
yep.
They do a lot of stuff like that. So yeah, I'm sure that so much of the inspiration behind that is, you know, Cold War influence, of course. Yeah.
And you know, like that's in my opinion, at least, I think that that's the charm, is that there's a lot of misunderstanding, I think, of things like comics and anime, video games, even things that seem, quote, childish or whatever, that a lot of people don't take the time to figure out, you know, what's actually happening, what's the point here. It's a social commentary. If you read Black Panther, there's a lot of stuff in there like that too. You know, I think that I have not. Okay, so something I should have said in the should you watch section that I think is important is this movie, really good, not great, not the best thing I've ever seen, but really good. Yeah, it's on the really good side. Yeah. But the thing that this movie did the most for me was not just entertain me. It made me want to watch the stuff I've skipped.
That's cool. Yeah.
Since Endgame stopped, and I'm ashamed of this because, like, I don't know what it is about the character. I love Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
I think
cool. Yeah.
Winter Soldier is one of the coolest damn things to ever happen in a comic. He's this. It's the fact that he's like an apparition almost. That the way that they show him is he appears, he does his job, he leaves, and then, you know, I don't know what it's like in the comics because I was previously unfamiliar with Winter Soldier before the films. It's just like the first time you see Winter Soldier, even though you know he's a bad guy, when he fights Cap in the street with his mask on.
Yep.
I'm just like,
there's something really alluring about him. Yeah, it's not just a traditional villain. You're like, oh, I hope you know the good guy beats him up. It's like, oh, who is this dude? Like,
for like about 90 seconds, I was like, Steve who? Yeah. Like, I didn't even care about Captain America.
That's America's ass, all right? Don't you?
Yeah, it's true. But there was a moment where, like, I almost wanted Winter Soldier to win the fight.
Yeah, that would
like. And I'm ashamed that I haven't watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier because I think we talked a while ago.
Like it,
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think I talked about this a while ago. We're talking about like which Marvel actor we'd like to meet, and Anthony Mackie was the person I picked. Like, if I could just go hang out, like have a bite to eat and just chat with someone, I think Anthony Mackie would be the coolest. So the Winter Soldier character I love, and Anthony Mackie as an actor just seems like a cool guy. So I can't wait to go back and watch that. Yeah. With the Russian vibe, I just really wanted Bucky to show up.
Yeah, I thought that would have been really cool. Yeah. And it didn't make sense time-wise, though, being after Civil War. It's like it wouldn't work out, but yeah.
I just want like a tie-in or something. Like I just wanted his existence to be acknowledged, just because I think Winter Soldier is so cool.
Yeah, I think what would have been really cool is Alexei bragging about fighting Captain America, not realizing Captain was frozen in the ice during the period he was claiming that he knew him. He should have just been talking about times he interacted with Bucky during that time. Like, wouldn't he would have known Winter Soldier. He would have probably had missions alongside him and stuff like that. So it's like, that would have made so much more sense to tie it in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would have been a lot cooler. And I think it would have been funny, like, during the arm wrestling scene, this would have been a complete, like, fuck up in the timeline, I think. This is different because Josh Brolin is in a separate set of films that, like Deadpool. Well, I somehow wanted Cable to show up.
You know, he's also in the MCU, right? You know who Josh Brolin plays?
Oh yeah, he's Thanos,
yeah,
right?
He's Thanos. Yeah.
Doesn't Deadpool actually call him Thanos?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
I wanted somehow for Cable to show up and try to arm wrestle.
That would have been funny.
Red Guardian.
That would have been fun. Or why not just Thanos? That would have been like he just soul stones his way into the prison there. Beats Alexi in an arm wrestling match. But no, that would have been kind of cool if it was like, if Cable was there somehow. Yeah.
There were like all these silly ideas that I thought would have been funny in the movie that I think, because the ideas admittedly are hacky. I'm not a filmmaker, so there's a lot of reasons why they didn't do that. But I really did want something to happen. I wanted to hear something, a passing comment, see like the book that the command book.
Yeah, that would have been
Bucky.
interesting. Yeah.
Like hear someone say like soldat, like just hear somebody, anything like something like that. I wanted it to happen. And you know what, just for my edification, please, if you're watching us on YouTube, could you comment and like tell me if I'm alone here? Because I really wanted Winter Soldier in this movie. Like I feel like I've just like gone off on this crazy like Bucky tangent.
It's well deserved though. It's definitely well deserved.
The reason why I wanted Bucky to show up is because I wanted Bucky to show up is because I wanted my movie crush decision to be easy.
Yeah, because it definitely wasn't easy for me. I texted you even during the movie. I was like, "There's too many options, dude. It's not clear cut." There's one thing that Marvel's doing right now that is really, really fucking cool. They have a whole comic series called What If, and it's just kind of like these what if this happened. They're doing animated movies now that are spin-offs of moments in the MCU that it's like, what if this happened at this moment? And it's like, that would be cool to do an animated version where it's like, what if Winter Soldier was in the same prison as Red Guardian? Just different things like that like, I love that style that they do there.
That there was actually a really cool one, as I mentioned Alpha Flight earlier. They did one way back, I think it was in the 90s. What if Wolverine led Alpha Flight?
Oh, that's cool.
Like, what if he stayed in Canada? And that's what ended up happening. That was cool. The cover was very scary, though. I think it's him kneeled over a dead Cyclops with his claws out.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think that was Cyclops underneath him.
I love there was like a meme going around recently where someone said something about Cyclops being their best X-Men, and it was like, if Cyclops is your favorite X-Men, you're definitely a cop. And it's like there's something wrong with you. Like,
okay, Steve Rogers' favorite member of the X-Men is probably Cyclops.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100%. God, if they cross over, that would be the funniest. That would be such a funny thing to have in a movie. Like, everyone looks at him like, your favorite X-Men Cyclops? Like, what is wrong with you, dude?
Okay. Back to another hypothetical cast.
Okay.
Is it crazy that I would like to see Tom Cruise as Cyclops?
If it was like an older I could see, like, of course not if they're doing young, like if he's supposed to be 20 and it's Tom Cruise, like, no, but like an older Cyclops, I could kind of see that. He's got that kind of like all around like cheesy, smiley, like, I could see that. Yeah. That's not horrible.
Okay, yeah. I think you're right. If they did like a Cyclops version of it, and you know what I think it is? I was going to say if they did a Cyclops version of Logan, but they wouldn't, because Cyclops is like probably the most boring X-Men character.
Yeah, he's super vanilla, super just, yep.
He's like, hi, I'm Cyclops. I follow the rules. Like,
well, and then also like the other reason most people hate him too is like there's the love triangle and everyone loves Wolverine. So the fact that Wolverine's in love with Jean and she's with Cyclops, it makes, to most comic fans, Cyclops is just the other dude. It's like hold on, like, no, I want Scott out of here so my boy can get his girl. Like, yeah.
Wolverine is the Team Jacob of X-Men.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting that. Yeah.
Because no reasonable person wanted to end up with Edward. I'm just saying.
Dude, speaking of another thing, like where we're just talking about things we choices that characters would or did make in this movie, you just kind of reminded me of like one of my notes here. I love the fact that Natasha was actually listening to Sia in that car ride. That was like, because I love Sia so much that like when she puts on the music and it's Sia, I was like, oh yes, like that is good choice. Like that was awesome.
Yeah. I remember the scene. Like she put it on. I was like, man, what is this garbage? And I was like, oh yeah, it's Sia.
That hurt deep down.
I'm just kidding. It's not. I don't hate Sia, but
that was a song that Sia originally wrote for Rihanna, and Rihanna turned it down, and then ended up being like a multi-platinum hit for Sia when she that whole album. Like Sia was a songwriter for a while and like wrote songs for other people, and like that whole album, 1,000 Faces of Fear, I think is the title of it, is all just songs she wrote for other pop artists that got turned down, so she just released them on her own and did the own vocals for them. Like I thought that was really cool. But
as well. I mean,
yeah, if they're good songs. They're good songs.
Yeah, make them a reality. So yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what that motorcycle was that they were on at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm. It was the black one with the brown seat.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I always talk about like the cars and stuff and the movies and things because I just find them exciting,
True.
Because I think that the decisions you make about vehicles are just as important as wardrobe decisions.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, it all fits into the environment you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they contribute to the film very heavily.
Mm-hmm.
I love the bikes that they picked for the chase scene. I think the dirt bike looking one. I think that's a Zero, which is an all electric motorcycle.
Oh, that's cool.
So they imported the engine sounds, but I'm pretty sure that bike was a Zero, which I think is cool.
That is cool.
It seems like it might be a better choice too to use just for the filmmaking. And the fact that they used a motorcycle with long travel suspension to do the jumps and stuff,
mm-hmm.
so it doesn't seem like they should just break the bike.
Yeah. Yep.
And the stunt people that did the driving and the riding for that scene are amazing. Like those are some really, really good stunt people. And the scene where the vehicle, I think it's a Beamer, an X Series Beamer,
mm-hmm.
crashes into the metro.
Yep, that was great.
Because I had this eye roll moment because like I'm kind of tired of car chases.
I can feel that. Yeah, they've been done in literally every action movie ever. So yeah, I can see that.
I'm burned out on them. It's like I feel like if the Team America production team for Team America, they did that. Do you remember the montage song?
Yes.
Where they make fun of the fact that montages are just too common and overdone. I wish that they would do a car chase version.
That would
where every movie has a car chase.
Yep.
But because I'm so burned out on car, and I didn't even realize that until just then. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of car chases. The whole time I'm like, oh, what are they gonna do now?
I did like one moment from this one I thought was really cool. First of all, the banter back and forth between them was great. But when she like makes her turn the beam around and kicks the door open and then it hits the chick on the motorcycle, like that was a cool little spicy moment that is not in every car chase. Like I thought that was kind of cool, but there's only so much you can do with them though. Yeah.
That was one thing about the movie that I think I really enjoyed was that they did spice it up a lot. And I feel like we've seen stuff happen with things involving the subway in films, like with car stuff. Okay. But I think the way that they did it just seemed so brutal to me, like the way that it happens. And the fact that it's upside down when it ends up in there too.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a nice touch. Still, I don't know. Maybe it's a formulaic thing about action films that you have to have one. And maybe if there wasn't a car chase, I'd be complaining that there wasn't one.
It would be better than. It is just better than them running through the whole city. Like as much as I think car chases are kind of like you're saying formulaic and vanilla. Like if it was just Taskmaster on foot chasing them and they're just sprinting through the city, I think that would be like parkour scene would be probably cheesier, but.
Yeah, that's only cool with Spider-Man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't work with anyone else. I did want to talk about Melina.
Sure.
I feel like that role was a waste of a good actor.
Just in the fact that like she didn't get enough like screen time or
I feel like for how much money I'm sure they paid Rachel Weisz.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they got their money's worth. I think I understand that the film is about Black Widow, and that maybe more the sort of pseudo familial relationship between her and Yelena, but I wish they would have done a little more with Melina just to allow Rachel Weisz to just have a little more time. I think she's if you look at her body of work, she's quite the professional, and she has she has insane range. Like she was in that lobster movie that you told me about.
Yep.
And she's amazing in that. The Constant Gardener with it was one of the Fiennes brothers. I forget who it was.
She was in The
I
Fountain
just,
with Hugh Jackman, right?
dude, I never saw that.
Dude, that's a good movie. If you haven't seen that, it's like a cerebral one that it is not at all very exciting. It's really like understated and really cerebral, but it's very well done though. Yeah, it's great, man.
I mean, she was in Constantine. I think she was in The Brothers Grimm with Ledger and Damon.
Yep.
She's done all kinds of shit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I thought she did a good job in the role, but I wish they just would have written her a little bit better and allowed her a little more screen time. But once again, like I get it. The movie's about Black Widow. I understand. But
and I'm excited with that level of actor and knowing that in the comics, Melina is a much, ends up being the Iron Maiden and is like a, prominent character. Like maybe she comes back in that role and actually gets, a metal suit and everything. And like, it would be cool if that was just, setting up for that character to come back larger later. But I agree for such a, prolific actor with, so much talent. Yeah, I do think she did not get a lot of screen time at all. Yeah.
And like I understand, maybe you want to try to fill the roles, even the smaller ones, with the highest caliber and the best pick for the role. And I don't know anybody that would have done this role better. I just wish they'd done more with her. So hopefully, they will come back. She'll get to kind of reprise the role as like something a little more complex. I'm unaware of the Iron Maiden.
Speaking of she's just for lack of a better term, like a female Russian agent Iron Man. She has a cool metal suit and everything. She would it's
cool. Okay, makes sense.
How'd you feel, speaking of characters with not a lot of screen time that I think were cast really well though, how'd you feel about OT, I have no idea how to pronounce his last name, but the guy that played Mason, the dude that got Widow all of her stuff. It was, always sleeping in her bed and like, I thought he was great in that role. I thought he was like just funny enough, but
yeah, I think he did good work because he created this sort of familiarity dynamic with Scarlett Johansson that you could see this sort of and see, that's the thing that I think is cool is that when an actor, because I didn't even think about him until you mentioned him or even thought about what he did, when an actor plays a role really well or like plays a dynamic or creates chemistry with another actor, it's hard to articulate.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I'm trying to find the words to say it, but it's like the familiarity without actual friendship.
Yeah, how she keeps him at enough of a distance that like you can tell that he would be a real friend. He's concerned for her, and she, has the line like I don't pay you to worry or whatever. Like it does like, well for her character development to have that role there to complement her. Yeah. Right.
The closest thing to a friend that a character like Black Widow could have outside of Clint. And the thing is the only reason why Clint and Widow have the relationship they have is because they are siblings in arms. Yeah. Because for Widow, you have to shed blood with her, and you have to you have to have your blood shed. You have to bleed with her is what I mean. You have to bleed with her, and you have to bleed a lot. That she, I think, can only really create a bond in the thrill and the difficulty of battle.
Yep.
Is that cheesy?
No, I think that it's a I wouldn't say over the top way to word it, but I think it's spot on. I think that they show you that with the relationship between Clint and her, that it's like, their entire basis for what they are is because they've served together, and they always talk about Budapest and things like that, and
it's with that character. What was his Mason? With that character Mason, there isn't. It almost sets sort of the stage for the specificity of her relationship with Clint. And I think that it's like, okay, this is a silly comparison to make. I cook a lot. black pepper. A lot of people don't really get what black pepper is for. There are some dishes where it's featured, but I think what black pepper does the best is brings out other tastes.
Interesting. Okay.
And Mason is like the black pepper of the relationship between
racist.
Black Widow.
That's so
the light black pepper.
Yes, that's much better. Yeah.
He somehow brings out other dynamics in that relationship. Now that I think about it, I hadn't really thought about it before. I mean, do you have similar thoughts to that, or did you just think he did a good job?
I mean, I didn't at all think of him as black pepper, but no, I do think, yeah, like I'm saying though, it did stand out to me as like his role was so small and so nuanced, and I think he portrayed it perfectly. But it's like, yeah, the whole purpose of that role was to show you more about Widow, about Natasha, and it was just the right amount. He played it in the right way. That, yeah, like you're saying, it's like, yeah, he was the spice that brought out more from the other flavors in the movie. Yeah. I think it's a good analogy, yeah.
But I mean, hear me out though. For Mason, Aubrey Plaza.
Okay. Well, I think there almost needed to be that male female dynamic between the two. Yeah. I don't know how I would have liked that role if it was just another female. There was already, like, I know it's a female fronted movie, but it's like we got barely. I mean, the one male lead we got was kind of a buffoon in a lot of ways too, that it's like, it's like if there wasn't a Mason character, we would have had a movie with literally like almost no redeemable men in it whatsoever. So just for representation, I feel like that would just work better that he stayed a male character. But yeah.
And on the subject of social commentary that we talked about earlier with, X-Men being about civil rights and the numerous other ways that, the Cold War having a large part of how some of the characters are made in the Marvel kind of universe across mainly the comics. I really think that this is a commentary on the male perception of females, that you look at the way that Dreykov is, and the scene where he says our most, what does he say, our most I don't know if he says abundant or or
a most abundant natural resource or something. Yep.
And then he says girls, and I'm like, dude, the moment he said that, I talked twice during the movie, which rarely happens. The first time was when I can't remember if it was Yelena or Natasha, one of the masked, like helmeted, firearm wielding guys. There's a scene where she does like a flip, kicks him in the leg, and he hits the back of his head, and he's somehow unconscious.
Yeah,
I got upset because I didn't think that it would have worked, that she would have knocked the person out while they're wearing a helmet. Silly. But the second time I talked, that was the rebuttal, was like, well, what if it's a cheap helmet? Like, well, I guess Dreykov isn't as cool as he thought he was.
The flying red room took a lot of money. All right, they had to skimp on the PPE budget. So yeah, the helmets are not great. Yeah.
They added some realism and pragmatism to the film by cutting costs. All right. I wish you were in the room at the time. That would have been very valuable. But when Dreykov says that thing, I said, wow, that is the epitome of misogyny.
True. Yeah.
Like, that is the truest example, like, of the term. And I think that there's something about it goes two ways, that there's a positivity in, when given the opportunity, the strength and tenacity that females can have, but then at the same time there's this taking advantage of a person, and the fact that he singles out young girls as this is essentially human trafficking.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of commentary about these sorts of thoughts and these sorts of behaviors.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Barry. Okay. What I was saying, there was another major commentary that stood out to me with all the red room and everything too, where it's like, so it is this old white man running this thing that makes reproductive decisions for all the women, like where they actually like literally neuter everyone. Like that's kind of another whole thing about how like, you know, like do men really have the right to make the, you know, choices about like abortion and things like that. Like I thought that was like valuable commentary as well. Yeah.
The scene where Yelena is telling Alexei about this process,
Yeah.
which I like the whole time, like I'm sitting there, like I look across the room at my 12-year-old nephew, and I'm like, well, he's 11 actually. I'm like, I was like, does he even get this? I think it flew over his head. He was just kind of like, he didn't get it.
I love it. Alexi's like, enough. She's like, I was just about to talk about fallopian tubes too.
Yeah,
and
that shit was funny.
Yeah,
but there's two things I thought was cool about that. Is that A, you know, it illustrates the point that you're making. Mm-hmm. It really brings it home. But the fact that Yelena, there's something that you find out if you hang out with enough people that have seen like combat, that they develop this, or paramedics or ED nurses or doctors, that they develop this graveyard sense of humor very quickly. And Yelena, I think, illustrates that kind of graveyard humor, like in what she's talking about.
Yep.
Because she's being very cavalier about something terrible.
Yep. Well, and also, like, to me, just it like speaks to her just acceptance of like, this has happened to me. I accept it. I can make humor of it at this point. Like, it doesn't have to be this baggage I'm carrying with me. Like, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's. I think it shows, I think, some resilience in that character that I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. I mean, at least in my opinion. I mean, I thought it was awesome. Admittedly, I mean, I'll actually tell you, I'm winging this whole episode.
No notes? Damn.
I have no notes because a lot of the film, a lot of the things that stuck out to me stuck out profoundly. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like I didn't really require anything to refresh my memory on it.
I actually, full disclosure, I watched it twice back to back. I watched it one time with no notes whatsoever, and then watched it again with my actual notes, like, and then typed them the second time. But I wanted, like, I found like sometimes when I'm watching a movie, if my goal is to take notes for an episode, it's like sometimes I'll have to pause it, jot something down. It's like I really wanted to have a viewing where I didn't have to think about any of that, where it's like I can just sit and enjoy the movie and not have to worry about like typing notes.
Yeah, you know, I also I kind of figured it was going to be like that for you, because I know that there's a lot of people that like the Marvel films, mm-hmm. and there's this other kind of subculture of fans that are like just really into them on like a much deeper level. Yeah. So I anticipated that. I thought you would probably want to have one run just to like watch the movie and enjoy it. You know. Do you, and it's kind of like what I mentioned in the should you watch section. Mm-hmm. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Do you think that they did a good job developing Black Widow? Do you think that we got some good character development out of the film?
So yes and no. Okay, so this movie reminds me a lot of some of the thoughts I had about Joker, where going into it, it was like, does this character need a backstory? I think one of the coolest things, like, you know, not going too far into Joker, but I think one of the coolest things about that character was like, I love that there's not a backstory. Just he kind of comes out of nowhere. Like that to me, I thought was really cool. Then I saw Joker and was like, wow, I really appreciate what they did. Everything I learned about this character becoming who he was, I actually really enjoyed. Felt the same thing about this, where this was like, I thought all the backstory I needed about Natasha was, you know, knowing that horrible things go on in the Red Room, that she was, you know, very like trained incredibly hard there, that she became one of their best, and now she is Black. Like I thought that's all I needed to know. However, after watching this, I do think they did a good job. I think retroactively some of the stuff doesn't make a lot of sense, where her character has said multiple times that she didn't have a family and everything, and now I understand that's because, you know, the family wasn't real and she lost that family at a young age. But it's like, now going back, it's like, well, she kind of did. And it's like, seeing what happened in this movie, she could have gone back and rekindled this family if she had the interest to, because it even happened, you know, like, so some of the things she said in other movies don't necessarily make the most sense because of now seeing this context with her backstory. But no, I did like what they did. Yeah, I feel like they did a good job with it. Yeah.
Would you say that this is the equivalent of maybe when you have a song you really like and it has a specific meaning to you, and then you hear the songwriter tell you the meaning and it just completely screws up the song for you?
No. If anything, no. I would liken it more to like, that the songwriter tells me their thoughts of it, and it gives me a new appreciation for the song. I don't think it didn't screw it up for me at all. And instead made me be like, oh, maybe I had a different interpretation, but I this actually makes me appreciate it more. Yeah.
So generally speaking, it sounds like character development good, continuity compromised a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. But even though it does still make sense, because at the point where she was saying those things, other than in Infinity War or Endgame, the lines where she said in that, like, oh, I've never had a family. It's like, well, hold on. Now we know that just 2 years ago you were sitting down at dinner with your lost family, even though you didn't treat it as such. It's like, apparently that door was open, somewhat, and then at the end of this movie, it's like they seem to have left on good terms, where she could have, reached out to Alexei or Melina or Yelena for any sort of like quote unquote familial support. So yeah, other than the time she mentioned anything like that in either Infinity War or Endgame, all the rest of it does still make sense. But yeah, it is obviously retconned though. I don't think that they planned this movie to slot in there, years ago. Yeah.
So I think before I asked you another question, you were going to ask me if I thought they developed her well.
Yeah. What was your opinion there? Yeah.
I recognize that this is a Marvel Studios film, so I'm not going to hold it to like the same level of, like this isn't, I don't know, the new Guillermo del Toro movie featuring, Oscar-winning actor Javier Bardem.
Well, our go-to can be, it's No Arrival, right? Since that was
yeah.
That could be the meme for us, since it won last year. So
this is No Arrival, but in light of the fact that it is the kind of movie that it is, I thought they did a decent job. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's part of Black Widow's kind of persona, part of kind of what Black Widow is this kind of somewhat kind of neurotic, I guess, detachment from things and people. So you don't want to let the audience in, so to speak, too much, because that ruins the character. And I think that's kind of like what you were saying before, like, does this character need a backstory? So I agree with you in a lot of ways, and I didn't really think about it. Widow really doesn't, because that's part of her charm as a character.
I love that they avoided going into detail during her time in the Red Room, because that's like that still has that whole area up in, as a mystery then. But
so they developed it, but not so much that it ruins the kind of mystery or the allure of the character.
That's how I feel. Yeah.
And it's funny because you basically just changed my mind because of what you said. Because I was asking you if you thought it was good, because I thought it was maybe lacking. But now that you've mentioned that, I think I am understanding maybe more the creator's perspective or the creator's goal to, like, not, I guess, quote, overdevelop her, for lack of a better term.
You need her to have that mystery there.
Right. They're that, and you're not really sure exactly, aside from the couple things that they kind of said about her mom, you don't really know still a whole lot of how she even ended up in the Red Room. So yeah, I mean that's but I was just curious what you thought about it. But yeah, I think I agree with you in a lot of ways about what you said regarding her being developed as a character. Once again, though, man, I just wish Rachel Weisz would have had a little more time on the screen.
Speaking of her time on the screen, there's one I usually defer to you, being the expert here. Do you have any idea what her rifle was?
Wow, me?
Yeah,
me being the expert.
Well, a lot of times you check out you even told me about that website that has the guns and movies and stuff. But
I think
was nice.
I recall, so, oh my God, it was just so funny. Like, there's this moment watching the movie with my nephew where I was like, oh God, this boy plays too many video games. And he's like, oh man, nice suppressed sniper. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm worried about you.
It's technically correct, but
it's true. It looks like, I think I've seen something similar to that.
I'm scrolling through the, what is it, IMFDB, the
International Movie Firearms Database. I am curious to know now. Okay, I do have a complaint, a small complaint, recognizing that this is intended to be a superhero type movie. And I realize this happens in a lot of movies.
Oh, real quick, let me. I found it. And apparently,
it?
Melina carries a BLASER. I don't know if that's supposed to be Blosser or Blazer R93. But that's
Blazer like the. Interesting. Hold on. Oh, these are like super expensive, aren't they? Are they like German or Dutch or something?
I know
I've heard of
nothing about that.
these.
Yeah, it's a German straight pull modular precision sniper rifle. Yeah. Yep. Introduced in 1993, discontinued in 2017. Okay.
I feel like I've heard people talk about these and they're like super expensive. But hey, once again, just like wardrobe, you got to give them weapons that make sense.
Exactly. Yeah, makes perfect sense for that too. Yeah,
that add a little bit to the character. But one little gripe that I have is that I think that it's strange that we have individuals that are fighting other people who have long guns with more destructive like cartridges. And then you have individuals with smaller arms like pistols fighting individuals who are wearing like gear that's intended specifically for war or for a fight.
Yep.
And that somehow they're able to put up a fight with no problem with these much smaller, much less accurate, much less destructive weapons.
Well,
I get that there's something, for lack of a better term, sexier about pistols, I guess.
From your time in Tarkov, though, you do know that ammo matters more than the gun. What if they had 7N31 in all those pistols? It's actual armor-piercing like pistol rounds. You never know, but
that is true. I mean, the muzzle velocity is still going to be lower, but if it, okay, that's true. And at the ranges that they were fighting the people at, yeah, true. And if you're interested in watching Ty play Escape from Tarkov, he does stream it too.
I do, yeah.
So there's always that. You can always catch him doing that if you like the games and you don't love the podcast, or you love the podcast and you love games. You can always catch him on there and watch him get shot with some 7N31.
Yes, I'm very good at that. My head eyes are a 7N31 magnet.
But yeah, it's and that's just a silly thing that doesn't matter. Like this isn't. If it were a film that were intended to have some degree of realism about it, you know, there's a floating fortress and a super strong Russian guy that can't ever really be seen when he's bearing his soul to anybody.
We're talking about a universe where a dude got blasted with gamma rays and instead of dying turned into a big green monster. So I can suspend a lot of disbelief when I'm watching Marvel movies. Yeah.
Somehow radioactive decay didn't rip his entire body to shreds. Yeah, that's true. I mean, and watch out for those radioactive spiders, boys.
Oh my God, I saw a meme recently. There was something about like some kids were letting venomous spiders bite them for hopes of turning into Spider-Man, and the top comment was, "Too bad they turned into Uncle Ben."
Oh, that's
so good.
Terrible.
I mean, but it's so good.
It's
though.
funny. It's funny. Graveyard humor.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm actually now a little curious what else like they were using, like what other weapons they used in the movie.
There was a long page. There's a lot.
The bow that Taskmaster had, I want to know kind of what that was, if that was a real thing.
That was kind of cool.
It was some kind of compound something. But yeah, and you know, maybe it's silly to have a gripe about the realism of like the gunplay in a superhero film. I
like how it was actually somewhat more realistic than Tomorrow War, though, with the like 100,000 round mags. Like at least in this, I wasn't seeing just like, you know, people shooting for a minute and a half without reloading. But yeah.
That is very, very true. You know, like in the post John Wick world, things are different for action films, much different than they used to be. But then once again, like I think that this is like this type of subgenre of action is almost like an action parallel.
Yeah, exactly.
Falls under the action umbrella. It's like a sect of action.
I
Not a
specifically,
subgenre.
when writing the genre in my notes, like I didn't even call it action. I'm just calling it a superhero film. Like it's like, sure, there's action in it, but it's like, yeah, I wouldn't feel right calling it an action movie. It's like the superhero films kind of they're their own thing to me. Yeah.
Because if we look at the way superhero films and superhero series are done, they don't have to be an action film. They can be pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
Daredevil series, tons of drama. Same with Punisher, I think.
Daredevil had some great action though. That hallway fight scene, that is some of the best like screen fight choreography I've seen in a while. That was great.
The fights are great, for sure. But it's cool that they can make it in a way that's not limited to action. But obviously the action has to be there. You know, I mean, that's one of the major reasons. One problem, like talking to my lady friend after just talking about her perspective on it since we watched it together, she said that that's where I kind of came up with the idea that I talked about in the Should You Watch section. She said that she wanted more action. And I thought about it and I tried to figure out, like, is that reasonable for this movie? And that's kind of when I came to sort of the realization that I think this really was for character development. That if what you're looking for, if you're looking for another piece of cake, then you're not going to get another bite of that. But if you want to have like some extra icing or like a garnish or a cherry to sort of make enhance the taste of the cake, then that's what you'll get with these.
Yeah.
And after seeing this one, I'm excited to watch the stuff that I ignored because I was skeptical. Admittedly, I might not have actually watched this if we hadn't scheduled an episode on it. So I'm glad we did. And I'm really excited to see where else they go. Like what other development are we going to get? What more are we going to find out? Like what are we going to see with Clint? Like who is Hawkeye? Do we learn more about like his early years, his family life? I'm just excited. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm not disappointed. I'm not concerned about the future of the Marvel films. And this is almost like there was, I think, a lot of people felt melancholy about Endgame. I know I did. And to me, this is a way to see a thing that was a cultural phenomenon for not just the West or for the US, but really for the world. I think that it isn't dead. It just has a slightly different direction.
To piggyback on what you're saying, I love that that they're able to do the smaller stories like this also really well. Like you're saying, like, you know, like a lot of times with, you know, anime, video games, superhero films, there's this tendency for it to build and build and build, and then eventually every conflict is the end of the world is at stakes. You know, it's like if you look at like what was going on through most of the end of Phase 4 with Marvel, it's like, yeah, everything is like, if this doesn't happen, the world's gonna end. I love that like they can tone it back down, have a smaller movie that is a lot of character development, a lot of like other stuff. And it's like, yeah, there's the, you know, the fact that he has this entire Widow army across the globe, but he already has that. There was never a point where it's like, oh, if we don't succeed on this mission, the world's gonna end. Like, I love that it was just a smaller story that could be more about the humans in this universe than just always having to be this cosmic thing. Now, of course, I assume that things are going to get even bigger as the movies will build towards the Eternals and things like that we will be back on the cosmic scale again. But I like that they can do both, and there can be I can enjoy this one just as much when it doesn't need to be the universe at stakes like that.
Yeah. It's like a good, all right, I'm going here. I'm going to this place. It's like a good dance song. You got to give everybody a break from really rocking out and take the energy down so then you can build it back up.
Yes. But it's like, it's the good break in a good dance song, because it's like, even when the energy was down for this, I didn't find it lacking. I still enjoyed it just as much as the high energy parts that are Endgame and such. Yeah.
Nobody wants to leave the dance floor. They just want to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've started doing a lot with films is I've started to try to pay a little more attention to the younger artists in the films. Ever Anderson, the person that played the young Natasha.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that for the limited amount of screen time that she got, I think that she was able to create a youthful version of a character that we are familiar with.
Yeah.
That it was so cool because the way that she does it when she takes that that pistol, which I think was a Makarov, wasn't it?
I think it was a Makarov, yeah. Yep.
That she yanks that pistol out of that Russian soldier's holster, which, I mean, number one, shame on that person for not retaining his pistol properly. But that she the sort of like rawness of it, the out of control violence versus the focused type of violence that you get from like older grown up Black Widow, that I think that she did a good job in her limited amount of screen time of capturing that, and sort of the dichotomy, the line where Melina asks Natasha, like, how did you not lose your heart? That I think that in that tiny scene that she gets, Ever Anderson gets at the beginning of the film as a young Natasha, I think she captures those aspects of the character. Oh, yeah. And, you know, I'm sure that she did a good job, but also with any film, I'm sure good directing had a lot to do with it. Sure, everyone's performances in the film, good direction is always great for them. But I'm excited to see what that actor gets to do in the future.
I just realized looking her up that she was the young the Red Queen in Resident Evil. She was the kid in Resident Evil Final Chapter. She was the young Red Queen. Like, that's that same actor.
Oh, dude, she was
really 5 years younger there. Yeah, that was in 2016. Yeah.
Well, oh yeah, I might need to rewatch this movie. But, you know, I'm interested. You know, maybe she pursues acting later, maybe she doesn't. But, you know, I think that was a good cast.
Yeah, she's definitely got potential if she does. Yeah, I agree.
And, you know, I don't think that, and not to downplay what Violet McGraw, it says here, played young Yelena, not to downplay her. I just don't think she got much of an opportunity, mainly because the movie is centered on another character.
Yeah.
She did a good job for what she was doing, but the way that character was written was not intended to be complex. I think they built a little more complexity later.
Yes.
And that's more about the relationship than Yelena herself.
I've got one more thing I wanted to talk about before moving on to like self-reflection and stuff. I want to know your opinion on it too, because it was also like, I'm gonna, you know, I've done nothing but sing praises for this movie basically the entire time. I do want to talk about like, well, I guess I brought up one of my oof moments was the Taskmaster reveal. I didn't feel like that hit me at all. Another one that I really didn't enjoy as much. How'd you feel about the whole like, Dreykov has pheromones and you have to like, she had to sever the nerve to get past those? That to me was kind of just a little cheesy, and there could have been a better way to do that in my opinion. But how'd you feel?
Not good. I thought that was ridiculous. Yeah, I feel like that one thing didn't ruin the film.
Yeah.
But it took away it took away from the movie for me, because it does drive me nuts when people do things about like science that are inaccurate. So okay, I don't know. I know that pheromones are typical like chemical like messengers, that they're kind of like signals to people, and I know that you can't consciously smell them. Like, it's not an aroma. Like, you know, like you can smell basil or garlic from the kitchen. Like, I don't actually know. I don't know one way or the other, but I don't know how much the involvement of the olfactory nerve is responsible for it.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, again, like we were talking about earlier, like it with the suspension of disbelief in the Marvel movies, like I was okay with it. I just didn't feel like it was the strongest thing they could have done there. That it just felt kind of like, all right, this is a little weak, but yeah.
I guess there's Civil War. Is the first Avengers movie where Tony talks about shawarma?
That's in the end of the first Avengers. Yep.
Okay, because I guess that this means that
which technically Civil War wasn't even an Avengers movie. That was a Captain America movie.
Yeah. So does this mean that Black Widow couldn't taste anything after this movie?
Well, she fixes it again. Like I mean, I'm sure she like I'm sure there's surgery to reconnect the nose, right? Like, I mean, like, think of like she get, like after this movie, she breaks Team Cap out of prison and everything. The Avengers have their like, get together again. As far as once they transition to Infinity War, they've got that entire upstate base with all of this medical equipment. I'm sure, you know, Bruce or Tony could have done some sort of surgery, or like, or Vision, even like someone was able to fix her olfactory nerve. I'm positive, but.
Yeah, that's true. Vision could have just been like, "Come here, I will fix it with my flawless British accent."
Or Doctor Strange, he could have fixed it.
Oh
Probably.
yeah, that's true. Uh, uh, man, Benedict Cumberbatch though, right?
I love him. Yeah, that's another one I'm excited for later this year. The next Doctor Strange movie seems like it's going to be really cool. Yeah.
Me too, man. I'm super excited for that one. And yeah, like once again, like that's one of the best things that this movie did for me. It was not only entertain me and create some sense of joy for the franchise, but also spark that interest in what I've missed and what's coming next. And so there's now some more enthusiasm for me, and I hope that anyone else that decides to see it will get that too.
Do you know who's directing that one? Right, the next the Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. Sam Raimi. Yes, I'm so pumped about that. That Sam Raimi is back to direct another Marvel movie, and it's gonna be like a super weird Doctor Strange movie that deals with the multiverse, has like Elizabeth Olsen in a lot as a Scarlet Witch. Yeah, I'm super pumped for that. I love what Sam Raimi does. So yeah, I'm stoked about that.
I thought you were gonna say something crazy like Michael Bay or Chris Nolan.
Oh God, no.
No. I mean, to mention Michael Bay and Chris Nolan in the same sentence is not fair, but Chris Nolan, while he does great work, I think he would not be great for a Marvel film.
Yeah,
he'd be like, "Can we darken it up a lot?"
Yeah,
though?
he would just, yeah. I mean, I guess like if it was, some one-off that was a character that was supposed to be super dark, like maybe I could see that, but yeah, I think he would want it to be too serious. Like, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, that finishes the notes I have. I'm ready to move on to actually, I'm sorry. There is one more thing I had to bring up. I forgot that. How do you feel about the funniest knuckle tattoos you've ever seen in a movie? Alexei with the Karl Marx knuckle tattoos, those cracked me up. I thought that was like, that fits so perfectly. Like, that is just whoever did that character design. I think that was just so on point. That was great.
That I had mixed feelings about it. Like, the reason why I liked it so much was that it was so ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah.
But the reason to dislike it is because it's ridiculous. But if it wasn't ridiculous, then it wouldn't be as funny as it is.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that captures like, because he has this kind of like, he just reminds you of everyone's parents a little bit.
Yeah. I could see.
Like, some of his attributes, like, wishing for the old days, like back then, back when I was in my prime.
Yep.
Just 10 years ago, 10 years before.
He was like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Like, man, back in my day, I could throw a football over them mountains, I swear.
that is probably the most accurate comparison you could make for Alexei.
All right, I'm ready for self-reflection. You got anything else before we move on?
Nah, man. That's about it for me on this one. Yeah, I think I mentioned everything I wanted to touch on.
Let's do it then. What I'm gonna let you go first again. What did this movie make you realize or learn about yourself?
This is a trivial one for me. Really, the only thing I really realized about myself had nothing to do with anything other than this thing that we're doing now. Something about this movie made me kind of realize why we're doing movies, like why this is what we decided to do, and we were maybe going to switch themes every year, but we decided to stick with this. This movie kind of made me realize how much I love film. Cool. That it made me think about how, like we were talking a while ago. I don't remember what movie we were doing, but I was calling a movie. I think it was when we did Fatherhood. I called the movie Bad, but that there were things I liked about it, but I love movies so much that there are bad movies that I love,
Oh,
like
yeah.
Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Tropic Thunder might be one of the worst pieces of garbage that's ever come out.
Don't you dare say
Um,
that. Oh my God.
I mean, Anchorman is trash, but I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Anchorman's good comedy. That's not really a fair thing to say, but there's lots of movies that are just so bad that you like them, and
Well, that
it
begs the
just kind
question
of
though, because it's like, if the movie's supposed to be entertainment and it's entertaining you, is it actually bad? Even though, like, as if you compare it to film at large, like, sure, maybe it's bad, but quote unquote, like, yeah, if it's
yeah.
doing its job, like, yeah.
If you, I guess if you look at like the orthodoxy of like filmmaking and the way you're kind of supposed to do things,
Mhm.
there's a way that you can kind of define movies as good or bad. Like, okay, all right, yes, I take it back. I take it back. Please don't stop watching us. Anchorman wasn't a bad movie. Okay. Yes, I take it back. Officially retracting that statement.
I
It
love,
was
yeah.
not a bad movie.
Barry's like, Anchorman is not trash. You take that back. I was zoned out doing something, and that got my attention. That's good.
Yes, that's the whole reason for that. I'm attempting to console him and actually just recognize that I've probably pissed off a lot of people by saying that. So,
If you think
didn't mean
Distance
it.
is wrong about Anchorman, tell us in the comments below, please.
Yeah, don't unsubscribe though, please. Just tell us if you think I'm wrong. Was wrong, but I retract it because it's like it didn't happen. But yeah, it's the fact that there was something about the MCU films that were one of those sources of excitement for me. That there was something childlike that we all felt when those movies came out, and that it kind of helped me to realize the excitement and the joy that I have had throughout my life with movies. When I was a kid, I think it was every Tuesday or every Wednesday, there was a local video store where we lived, and there was a day where the VHS tape movie rentals,
Oh
before
God.
DVDs,
You
were
need to
like
take your
half.
Centrum Silver and get to bed. Oh my God.
I think I just peed in my Depends.
That's fair.
There was some like half price movies like I think it was like every Tuesday or every Wednesday every week, and like we would go in there, and there was like a certain number of movies I was allowed to get. It was like one or two, I can't remember, but just watching that stuff, that I had at a young age. I developed an enjoyment of movies. I worked at a video store. I worked at Blockbuster. Once again, I'll take my Centrum Silver right after this.
Yeah.
But there's something about this movie in particular um, that I realized watching it how much I really do love movies, and how much I think both of us have talked about this, how much the way that we view movies has changed
Yeah.
now that we're like commentators and kind of reviewers on them. Once again, I'm always long-winded during this section. I'm sorry,
Dude, it's fine.
but
It's supposed to be a focus of the episode.
that's true.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. But I don't know, man. Like I just love movies. I'm
Hell
just
yeah.
someone that can't get enough of them, and I never have been able to. And there's almost like a focus of my personality that has to do with film. So and also like a heartfelt gratitude to Marvel Studios for continuing to give us something that's different,
Yeah.
but still comforting to us as movie fans. So, not that anyone from Marvel Studios is probably ever going to watch this.
No, actually, Kevin Feige is a subscriber. He loves this show. Yeah. No, you. I'm just either too good at deadpan selling stuff, but like you always have a look on your face like you're taking me half seriously for a second when I say these absurd things. But
Well,
I
it's
love
funny because I had the same face of amazement on that whole time. The first amazement was, "Oh my God, is he really subscribing?" And the second face of amazement was the continuation in which I was like, "Wow, I'm really gullible."
Yeah.
But no, dude, you were one of the deadest pans I've ever met, in a good way. But yeah, like so that's kind of where I got with it. It wasn't even really about me. It was just about us doing this thing and how cool it is to talk to a close friend from way back.
Yeah.
To this gives us the opportunity to like bond over yet another thing.
Yeah.
So it's about the show. It's about the movies. It's about the love for this stuff, and also the love of getting to do something so fun with my dude.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate that. Mine is And okay, so mine's kind of similar along similar lines as far as like it has more to do about realizing something that like so for me it really had to deal. So a big theme in this movie, of course, is like the family, and it made me realize, I guess, like the importance of family and how lucky I feel that I am. You know, like there's a lot of people out there that have families that really like don't give much of a shit about them. There's people that come from really rough, broken families and stuff. And it made me like realize how easy it is to take take it for granted that it's like I've got an incredibly supportive, loving family. And it's like, and there's a lot of people that don't have that and have never had that. And it's like, of course there's goods and bads to both sides. Like people talk all the time. There's the analogy of like, oh, well, you know, it takes pressure to make a diamond. And like, sometimes if you come from a situation that isn't possibly like too loving or too forgiving, that maybe sometimes you'll be missing in some circumstances. But it's like, I have to admit that it's like, it makes me realize that it's like, shit, yeah, I come from a very, very privileged background as far as like just having a family that is always there for me, always loved me, is incredibly supportive. And that's something that, yeah, like way too easy to take for granted. And I love that a movie, as, you know, I don't want to say cheesy because, you know, I really enjoyed this, but a movie as like superficial as a superhero film can draw that out and make me realize that. Yeah.
Wow, I feel like an emotionally detached moron right now.
No, dude, whatever, man.
I feel like I should have gotten more out of this.
No, dude, yours was great, honestly. Like it made me feel really good. Like again, it had to deal with like, you know, love between friends. Like I think that's just as real as family, you know? Like I'm the truth. I'm the family you choose.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Movie crush. This one, okay, so like I told you, this was tough for me. There were too many choices. I really liked a lot of the characters in this. Honestly, like all 4 of the main characters I think were options on my list. But when it came down to it, I had to pick Yelena. I thought that character was awesome. I thought she was hilarious. It's someone that I would love to sit and spend time and talk with because she's got top bands. She's able to like just come back with witty jokes all the time, like and in a universe of superheroes like this, where, you know, like you pointed out with Natasha, I don't think we would get along because it would take me, you know, training for years and fighting alongside her. And like you said, spilling tons of blood before she even had any sort of respect for me, probably. So like, that's a little beyond my bar. Like, so in like, you know, sure, Alexi's great and all. He's hilarious, but he is also, again, a actual superhero. Like, you know, so yeah, when it comes down to it, I think Yelena was the choice for me. I think that character was awesome. I think she was, yeah, hilarious. And yeah, definitely a character I could sit and have a few drinks with and have a great time. But what about you?
Oh man, I thought you were gonna go with Scarlett. I really did.
If it was just actor, possibly, right? Yeah. But yeah, character factor, yeah.
Because I feel like this was one of the ones where I feel like the easy one would have been her, and I didn't think you were gonna take that one for this, especially because of the text you sent me about the crush. Yep. So my movie crush, it took a lot of thinking, and I didn't decide until just now. Okay. But I think this is the right one now. My movie crush is Alexi. The pig that was named after Alexi. That is my movie crush. I was so crushed when she wouldn't let the little pig breathe with the mind control stuff, and he was so cute and so sweet.
Oh my God.
And little piggy face, and he was like oink oink, and then he fell over. Then he was so cute when he hobbles back onto his feet, and I was like, that's gotta be it. That's the one that really resounded with me the most.
That's perfect. I feel like I may have wasted a choice at this point. Yeah, that's a great one. Oh my God, that came out of left field too. Great delivery on that. Oh my God.
I mean, bro, any portrayal of anything that can make you think for a moment, I want a pet pig. Yeah. Also, possibly the best cast in the entire film.
Alexi did have 11 more seconds before it was going to die from lack of oxygen. So the pig was fine. You didn't need to worry that much. But yeah, oh my God, yeah, that was perfect. Great choice, man.
I think they made you dislike Melina a little too much at that point. but she was redeemed later in the film. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it was cool. So yeah, that was the one
That's great.
that was the only one that made sense to me.
That's perfect. For a second, I thought you were going with actual Lexi, and I was like, okay, yeah, he was cool and all, but like I said, like I can't see myself hanging out with an actual superhero. That's why I thought this was gonna be a really tough pick. But yeah, dude, great job, man. That's a good pick. Favorite line. You're up first.
I picked this line because I think it captures the personality of one of the characters in the film, and also a thing that I've experienced with real people like her that have done similar things as she has done. And I thought that this was one line that really sort of captures the sort of spirit of the character. This would be a cool way to die.
That was a good line. That was a good, and also complimented later with, "This is not such a cool way to die."
Yeah.
I like how those two together were. Yeah, that was. They had the perfect amount of callbacks in this to like earlier jokes and earlier moments like that. Yeah, that's great.
So I would like to apologize for my terrible Russian accent.
No, that was actually not too bad. My line is actually from the same person, from the same character. It's another one too that had quite a few callbacks later in the movie, but the original line just cracked me up too much. I thought it was way too funny. Had to rewatch the scene like twice and then jot the line down. I fucking loved it. Why do you always do that thing? You know that thing when you're fighting, you do this thing you do where you like whip your hair and with the arm and your hair and the arm, and you do like, it's like a fighting pose. It's a fighting pose. You're a total poser. Ah, come on. They're great poses, but it does look like you think everyone's looking at you like all the time. I loved that line.
Hey, I commend your fortitude. I wanted to do that one. That was the most metal and the least metal thing that has ever happened on this podcast at the same time. Oh wow. I'm just gonna say that was a perfect cast for that role. I think you were the perfect person to portray that.
Yeah, we joked earlier about you playing Yelena, but I think I could have pulled it off. I could have done it. I need to work on my Russian accent a little bit, but I could have done it.
Yeah, you're the guy. Yeah.
Oh, nice. We got one answer in chat of their favorite line. Chelsea's was the whole involuntary hysterectomy part. That was a good line too. Like that moment I thought was really funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the way that what we were talking about earlier, like the way that she takes something so serious and kind of shows like the power of humor and coping with the terrible.
Yep. And then also just Alexi's response to it and being just like enough like uncomfortable with it. It's like, okay, enough. Like just stop.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it was good. It was good. All right. So next week, I am pumped for this. I don't know what to expect. I don't know if I'm going to be disappointed or if I'm going to love it, but the new Space Jam, A New Legacy is what we're talking about next week. So we've got LeBron filling some pretty big shoes. I mean, I think I'm going to make it a point to rewatch the original Space Jam 2 at some point this week just to have that a little fresher. Because, dude, that's a movie. I mean, I'm sure, being around the same age, we grew up on that movie. That was when I went to like after school, like I don't want to call it daycare, but like the after school care. That was one of the movies that just like at least once a week, that's what the counselors or the caretakers would just put on and be like, all right, here, kids, just watch Space Jam and shut up. I'm going to sit in the corner. Like, so I've seen that movie so many times growing up that like there's a close nostalgic hold that I have on that. So I don't know how I feel about them rebooting it, but I'm excited to see it. But.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm super stoked to see what they do. Like I would like to see if LeBron can act. I thought Michael Jordan did a really good job in the original, and we grew up on that. And LeBron is this generation's Michael Jordan.
True. Yeah.
He is the new number 23. That's him. And fun fact on that episode, look for it in the background. I will have all LeBron sneakers behind me. So that will be nice. That will be my homage to Bron.
Well. Folks, that is going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast Movie Show. If you're watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the discussion, please hit the like button, subscribe to keep up to date with the show, and comment below and tell us how you felt about Black Widow.
If you think that either of us would make a good Widow, or perhaps if I should have been cast as Yelena for this movie, or if you want to further keep up to date or even join us as a guest on a future episode, please join our Discord. The link is in the description below. We will be live next week on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylaTV.
Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope everyone has a great week.